was one of my best sessions, and I left, and I called my sister, and I was like, oh my goodness, Lisa, this was the best session I ever had. And she said, what did you say? And I go, I don't know. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't know what I said. Like, I really don't know what I said. And she said, that's because it wasn't for you. It was for them. So I'm probably not going to know what I'm saying up here. Just know that this is for you, and I'm standing here, and I'm scared, but I feel so blessed. So thank you for having me. I don't know if you've all seen the movie, I Can Only Imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so as I was sitting in a rocking chair outside my house, I said, God, what do you want me to speak to these women about? And he led me to this trailer, and I'm like, I've seen this movie like so many times. So I listened to the trailer again, and you know the story. Amy Grant says to Bart Millard, so like, how did this song come about? And he said, I don't know, it took about 10 minutes. And she said, Bart, this took a lifetime. So I wanted to share with you just a little bit of my lifetime. I grew up with a mom and dad, but a dad that was emotionally not there. My mom was super anxious, so she taught me all my anxiety. And so I was afraid. I was a little girl that was afraid of everything. I sat in my room, I shook, I cried. I just kept saying to God, like, I don't know who you are, but if you can just take this away, that would be great. And he did not take it away. But I'm gonna tell you why. So my whole life was, my mom was a Christian and my dad was gambling. So my mom would take us to church and my dad would go betting. And so that's kind of how my sister and I lived our lives. I want a relationship with my dad. I love my dad. I forgive my dad deeply. But it has, I love that we were talking about, I think Victoria, you had said, forgiveness you can do. Healing is a process. And so it's still a process for me. Went to college and, surprise, had more anxiety. And one night I had it so bad that I laid on a couch and I said, you know what? I'm out. I didn't have any plans of suicide. I did not have any plans to hurt myself, but I was just done. I don't know if you've ever felt done. I was done. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go to bed, you're gonna bring me to heaven, and we're all good then. And I woke up the next morning and I wasn't in heaven. And I was like, okay, so then you're gonna do something else. So this is me pleading with God over and over. If you could just take this, I'll be happy. If you could take it, I'll be whole. But he didn't take it. He still hasn't taken it, I'm still shaking. So I finished college and I got married. That was really hard when you're not close to your dad to meet an amazing guy that treats you really well because you're like, I don't know what that is and I don't like it. Super unhealthy for me. So my big thing was the guy who marries me is gonna give me a sunflower. And my husband and I, boyfriend at the time, were driving past a sunflower field. And he's like, do you like these? And I was like, no, I don't know. And he gives the guy the $1 and has to go cut it from the field and brings it to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like this is the good one. But I didn't know how to accept the good one. And it took me, my first year of marriage, I took my ring off, I threw it at him. He picked it back up, he's like, never do that again. And I'm like, I don't even know what healthy looks like. My parents didn't have it, I don't have it. So we got pregnant 3 months after we were married. So not only do I not know how to be a wife, now I gotta be a mom. And I was like, no, God, if you could take this from me, I'll be okay, and when I'm ready to be pregnant, it'll be better. And so I was teaching at the time at a Christian school, and there was a picture on the wall in the bathroom of a little girl, and she was swinging. I was a big swinger. No, just take that the right way. I was saying that to a friend of mine the other day. She goes, I love to swing too. And we were like, not that way. Not that way. I didn't realize the meaning of that had changed. So anyway, I was the little girl that liked to swing and sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. No. And so it's a picture of a girl and God's hand. And it said, will you trust me? And I was like, oh, you're always asking me to trust you, but I don't always feel, I just want to feel it. I want to feel your peace, and then I can trust you. Oh, and it just doesn't always work like that. So I had a really hard time being pregnant. The doctor realized it. He brought me in. He did an ultrasound. I saw the baby. And that was it. I was like, oh, I can do this. So I just feel like God's been like, okay, one more hurdle. He likes to do that to me. So, I went to grad school, had the Moses mentality, kind of finished school, so I kind of got married, had the kids, went to grad school. God kept opening doors, and I love in Revelations 3:8. It says, when he opens, what he opens, no one can shut. And when he shuts, what he shuts, no one can open. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. And I was like, you keep opening doors, but you don't give me this feeling of peace. And so I don't know if sometimes we stop at the door because we don't feel peace. And you think I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I realize feelings change by the second. But I like to go on them. I wanted to come here this morning and feel peace. But I didn't. But I'm still here. Right? I'm still up here. And so I'm in residency. Virginia's so wonderful. They make us do 4,000 hours of unpaid hours. They're wonderful. Thank you. And thank God I had not known that before because I don't think I would be licensed. And I was at Grove Christian Outreach working with clients. At the time, I don't know if you all know Grove, but it's a beautiful facility right now, but at the time, it was trailer parks. So I was in one trailer, Dina Walls, who was the coordinator, was in another. And I had been looking for this picture that I had of this little girl in God's hand, and I couldn't find it anywhere. You think the internet would be so easy. I had looked for it for almost about 12 years. So I'm in session. My client has a seizure. He falls over. They don't want to take him to the hospital. He doesn't have medical care. So I run over to get Dina Walls, and I open the door, and there's the picture. And I was like, really? And so, to show you the picture. It's going to be hard, I know, for those who can't, and it's very light. But I kind of, and you can pass it around. So I said to Dina, where did you get that? She said, I don't know, Kim. I just put up pictures all the time here. I'm like, you have no idea what you just gave me. So I went back to the trailer. Oh, I forgot about the guy for a minute. I was like, wait, well, I'm here because there's somebody having a seizure. I'm so sorry. That was so, thank God he got taken care of and I got the picture. I did forget to tell her that first. Sorry. But anyway, he got taken care of and God is good. So I brought the picture back to the trailer. And I just cried. And I thought, I asked you for this picture 12 years ago. And I felt like God said to me, you didn't need it then. Oh, you need it right now. So when I would look at this picture, it was in the bathroom of the church, and I closed the top and would just sit and look at it. So guess where I had to put it? In the bathroom. So I emailed the guy who drew it, the artist. Figured, I don't even know if he knows if he's still alive, who he is. He emailed right back and he said, my picture was in the bathroom? And he said, you know, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to draw for God. And he said, you telling me that you benefited and were blessed by it. You blessed my life. So he sent me like 7 copies. So in asking God, sorry, I'm gonna bring this back because I don't want it to all be about me. I want to tell you a little bit about being a warrior. Because I don't look the picture of a warrior. I ask my clients all week, what do you think a warrior is? Can you imagine what I was getting? You know, it wasn't like the broken, the battered, the bruised. It was, one of my clients said, a male, gladiator. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, that's not me. I'm broken, I'm bruised. And it was so cool when Natalie was talking about this bowl. A sweet friend of mine, an office manager, gave me a bowl for Christmas. And it was a black bowl inlaid with all the brokenness with the gold. And I have it in my office. because I want to remember, and I want others to remember. We are broken, but we're inlaid with gold. Amen. And so, in asking God what I'm speaking about, here's what I'm speaking about. I want you guys, if you have a Bible or if you have your phone, we're going to go to 2 Corinthians 7:10. So Paul, I love Paul. I feel like Paul's a warrior. In getting to know Paul and studying this, I'm so thankful for Paul. To keep me from becoming conceited. Because of these surprisingly great revelations, there was given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And I was like, you brought me to that verse. I like Brene Brown a little bit. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she was saying, I was looking up grace, and she said, grace means that all your mistakes now serve a purpose instead of serving shame. And I was like, ooh, that was good. So I looked up grace, because God said, my grace is sufficient. And I think I know what grace means, but it's a spontaneous gift from God. Generous, free, totally unexpected, and undeserved. It takes the form of divine favor, love, mercy, and a share in the divine life of God. It is an attribute of God that is most manifest in the salvation of sinners. So I'm listening to a pastor in Charlotte, and he was talking about this thorn. And he talked about Paul asking 3 times, I want it to be gone. And I thought, I'm Paul. I've asked God over and over, take away my anxiety, and then I'll be good. And God didn't. I pleaded with God, take away my anxiety. And he said, my grace is sufficient for you. And I thought about the thorn a little differently that day. God, you've allowed these thorns. I have multiple, by the way. I'm just sharing my biggest one. You've allowed these thorns in my life. Thorn, it's got to be good because you allowed it. So I started thinking about a thorn, then I thought the rose. And I said, when you look at a rose, it's so beautiful, but it has thorns. Why does it have thorns? Because it's there to protect the rose. So why is my thorn there? It's to protect me from me. And it was like, oh, I just remember tears like streaming out. I'm like, you were okay with me having this thorn for so long, and I thought it's because you didn't love me. I thought it's maybe because I did something wrong. I thought maybe the thorn was because I needed to trust you more and more. And I was trying, God. I had every verse on peace. I will tell you every verse. I know them all. Yeah. And he was like, God gives us peace. 365 verses, one for every year. Great. They don't feel right to me. I don't feel again. Yeah. So I was thinking about Paul, and this pastor was talking about a messenger of Satan to torment. When you think of the word torment, you turn it around a little. It's not perfect, but you think of mentor. And I was like, the thorn was a mentor. My thorn is my mentor. It's teaching me how much I'm loved. And Rita, thank you for just pouring into how much we are loved. And Victoria and Natalie, I didn't feel loved. I felt like I was doing something wrong because I had thorns. And you didn't take them away. So I thought that was so cool that the thorn is actually God's supply, not my sin. Like my brain was like, this doesn't seem right. So it was just for me a cool way of thinking about how God was protecting Paul from his own self, allowing Paul to suffer so that he may be filled with him. So why do we suffer? Do we ever look at our suffering, right, as like, I know God's going to use this. I know God's going to grow me. And it's really easy to say that when we're out of it, but almost impossible to say it when we're in it. the promise says, right? I am weak, but you are strong. So I wrote this example. I was writing, I don't have to worry about my frailties, my weaknesses, my insecurities, my failures. So I boast in them. I started to boast in my anxiety. Not in like oh, I'm so glad I have it. Thank you, God. I love it. I love my anxiety. But I started seeing it as a tool that God allowed in my life to love me. Because I'm standing up here today, and this is really hard. My anxiety, you can imagine my thorn, my anxiety. I've talked to probably every woman here going, I'm just really ready to be done. I'm really ready to be over. Victoria made me third. So I had to wait. But it's so cool how God's sufficiency it's enough. So I want you guys, I'm going to go to another passage. I want us to look together in Judges 6, 11 through 16. And then I'm just pulling kind of from 25 and 32. I found this place in Explore the Bible. It talks about Gideon. And at the time, Gideon was weak and frustrated, questioning God. And in this Bible app, Explore the Bible, an angel of the Lord appeared to him. And I thought it was really cool, the perspective. It said, the angel of the Lord had a different perspective on Gideon. The angel saw his potential and not his posture. The angel saw his courage in Gideon underneath all the covering. And the angel saw a testimony in the future, not the timidity of the present. So I had to kind of get real with God and say, thank you. Still taking me time. I don't know who I'd be without this thorn, but I'm grateful that God is using it, even for me to stand up here. So I asked my clients, what is courage? And courage, what my client said is, when am I going to get over this feeling so that I'm courageous again? And I said, courage is doing what you can't do and doing it anyway. And he said, so it's never going to go away? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if our thorns are going to go away. We can ask. Paul asked. We can plead. And that's okay. God may take away some of my stuff in my life. Some of the thorns he has taken away. This one, not so much. Not so much. And so every day in my practice, there's days that I'm more anxious. There's days that I'm not anxious. There's mornings that I'm really anxious. The mornings that I'm really anxious are usually the days that are amazing. I watch him move in ways that I can't even imagine. I'll say things and be like, that was brilliant. Clearly not from me. And, so what I did was, you guys don't have to do this, but I did. I wrote a thank you letter to my anxiety. And it's really hard to do. I don't have it with me, kind of in my journal, but I said, thank you for humbling me. Thank you for allowing me to see how much God loves me. Thank you for putting me in a position where other people who have anxiety, I can empathize, I can understand, I can walk through. It's funny, when God called me to be a therapist, I thought, that the one thing that I'm scared of, I'm going to have to sit across every day. He's like, yeah, I know. So I wrote this thank you letter, and it was long, but I would encourage you all to think about your thorn or thorns, just in a different perspective. We ask God all the time, remove it, and sometimes God says yes, and sometimes God says no. But I was thinking about this. I wanted to share this with you. He took the ultimate thorns on his head. And I was like, you did that. You took all our thorns on your head. And you were crushed. I can't even, I'm holding it because it's so, even just hold it is painful. So he endured our thorns. And by his stripes, we're healed. So I'm healed from my anxiety. I don't always feel it, but I'm healed. And whatever that looks like, whether it's a feeling, sometimes I don't feel anxious. And I'm like, this is great, I'm over it. But then today, not so much. Right? Not so much. I definitely saw my thorn today. And I'm so grateful. My family and I were blessed to go to Europe for Christmas one year. And we went to 3 different places. And we were so blessed. We got to travel with 3 teenagers. I was so blessed. And getting up early in the morning and getting on trains. They were so lovely. And appreciated every moment of this trip that we spent a fortune and saved for. That we ended up in really beautiful places. We went to Christmas markets. It was really cool. But we ended up in Prague. That was our last. And this man was painting a picture of Jesus. And he had the thorns on his head. And I just sat on the bridge and I was crying. And he's like, would you like this? And I said, I'll pay for it. And he said, no, I just want you to have it. And I walked away and I carried it the whole way. And I don't like to fly. That's another one of my anxieties. And so I carried it on the plane with me because I had to remember that my thorns were taken. And so, a couple takeaways for you ladies. And I also wanted to bring you each a rose. Because I wanted you to remember that as beautiful as you are protected by him. You are so beautiful. Like every one of you, this morning when I woke up, I said I could sit with each one of you individually. I just can't sit in front of all of you. That was the fear, right? Like, I talked to Natalie and I said, Natalie, I could do this. And she's like, oh, I don't like to do this. She can do this. I don't like to do this. I like to do the one-on-one. Yeah. That's what I was made for. Yeah. So, yes, he's stretching me. But I wanted to give you my takeaways, and I wanted to encourage you to have your own takeaways. Maybe stop asking God why, and start seeing his supply in the why. Try not to see the thorn as an obstacle, but as a blessing. Remember, when you're weak, that's when you're strong. I feel like I'm at my strongest even though I don't feel like it. That's when we are. Ask God to really reveal your thorns and thank him for his grace in it. And I wanted to just pray over you, Mark 5:34. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. Thank you, guys.